Larry Crowne? More like Larry Brown. The internet spends a ton of time making fun of movies like The Room and Madam Web, and the internet spends no time making fun of movies like Tom Hanks' directed, written, and starred in Larry Crowne. Why? Because they're for moms. It's a mom movie, who cares? I do. This is a terrible, awful, trash mom movie, not even fit for the most smooth-brained of moms. I'm not joking when I say this is the second worst movie I've ever seen. And I know it's not one of the worst movies you've seen because you have not seen it. That's why you have to take my hand and watch Larry Crowne with me. Our tale begins with a long opening credit sequence showing a montage of Tom Hanks gleefully working at the Larry Crowne Cinematic Universe Kmart known as Umart. My pulse is pounding. He gets called to the back.
You have to listen twice.
And he's excited because he thinks he's getting his 9th Employee of the Month award. And so he says,
Spectacular!
Who was getting called back there to get fucking euthanized? He sits down and he's meeting with a few members of corporate, including Rob Riggle, who's apparently been abducted from Step Brothers for this role because he says stuff like,
"Hey, we've all gotten our clocks cleaned by our ex-wives.
And
You're forever retarded, Crowne."
Thank you, Tom. We get a little ass dialogue.
Hey, and it took us. That's right. And it took us where you get kicked.
Yeah, Yiddish word.
It's like the buttocks.
And basically, despite the fact that he's worked at Umart for almost 20 years, they're letting him go because they're going through layoffs and they've discovered he doesn't have a college degree.
That you never matriculated to a university or college.
I'm sorry? A college degree has nothing to do with being a retail leader. He in fact says he started working here straight out of high school, meaning it never mattered in the first place. Why would he suddenly start needing one after 2 decades of experience? What are they talking about? This is why this movie is terrible, and it's a unique kind of bad when it comes to movies. It's extremely out of touch. It's trying to be really grounded in reality. It is during the '08 recession, but nothing that happens throughout this entire movie makes any sense. Tom Hanks has produced and starred in his own movie at the tail end of the '08 recession where he cosplays as someone who gets laid off and struggles financially, and will come to see he has no idea how that works. Anyways, he drives home looking more traumatized than he did in his 9/11 movie. And so, okay, he's worked retail as a manager for almost 20 years. That is more than enough experience for Larry Crowne to get any other retail job. Almost any other management job.
No, they are not putting a colored boy on the hayride.
Except, apparently it is not.
Yeah.
Thanks anyway. Times are tough.
He interviews and applies around and he gets nowhere. Tom, someone with 2 decades of retail and leadership experience will get hired anywhere, regardless of college education. I cannot believe you wrote a movie about a man in his 40s who needs to go to college to work at Kmart. Next we meet his neighbor Cedric the Entertainer, who throughout this movie is having an eternal yard sale.
Taking a loan out to buy out Denise's half of the house was a bad idea.
And through their conversation, we learn that due to circumstances such as divorce, Larry is basically broke and losing his job is a huge deal. He got laid off just the other day and is already like, well, time to sell my chairs. All right, first of all, if you got shafted from a divorce, it sounds like you might have been the problem in that marriage. Secondly, if you're already selling your household items, you clearly have no time to waste. You've got to get yourself any job as soon as possible. The streets are always hiring. Oh, wait.
And a job, an education. Get you some knowledge and you'll be fireproof.
Instead of getting a job, you're going to pay for a 4-year degree at community college to work retail? With what money? With what time? You're out of money. You're out of time. I understand the job market is a little tough, but it would be a smarter financial decision to stand in the corner in the dark for 2 years waiting for jobs to open up than it would be to pay for 4 years doing the same thing. Well, over to college he goes.
Dave Busey, Dean of Student Services.
Ah, yes. My favorite part of college was when the dean introduced himself to me unprompted the instant I entered a building. So, the dean here recommends he take a speech class.
Speech 217.
He says this.
And you'll like the teacher.
And that is it. Larry Crowne walked onto a community college campus mid-semester. The dean showed up out of the shadows and was like, take this class. And he's on his way to a degree. This is how Tom Hanks thinks the world works. Also, something I just noticed here in the editing studio with my team. A bit ago, we learned that Cedric the Entertainer won 500 grand at a game show at some point, which is fun and all. But why did they title it like that? He won 5. Next, Larry decides he should get a moped to save on gas, I guess, and he reminds us,
Lamar, I have no money. I'm out of a job.
dude, you're going to starve to death halfway through your first semester. Now it's time to meet the teacher the dean wants to finger, Julia Roberts, whose mere presence in this movie is a spoiler for how she contributes to the plot going forward.
I wonder if I make a dollop of difference to anyone sitting in my classroom.
Facebook and Twitter killed whatever attention span they had left.
Yup. Phone bad. Larry pulls up to one of those moped-only parking areas you see all the time.
Didn't see you in the scooter pit last term.
It starts talking to an attractive young lady named Talia, who was clearly never told about stranger danger growing up. Larry, don't stand like that. You look like Lyndon Baines. Alright, I'm gonna pick up the pace here. Larry goes to Julia Roberts' class. Her name is Mercedes Tano. Wild. The mom from Wizards of Waverly Place is there. Rami Malek is there. Next class. This is so exciting.
Fancy this bit of destiny.
Oh, holy shit.
I've been thinking about you.
Holy shit. Alright, so this girl doesn't exist. This is a Tom Hanks fantasy. He thinks there are mixed girls inviting adult men to ride mopeds with them at community college. He thinks that adults want to make friends with kids at college, and kids want to make friends with adults. This is not true. Oh, hold on. Professor George Takei is speaking. Now it's time to cut to Bryan Cranston, Julia Roberts' husband, who, I'm not kidding, is looking at foxy pictures of women from the 60s. This is something that Hal from Malcolm in the Middle could literally get away with, but the movie treats it like Full House would.
You're looking at porn.
It's barely porn.
I'm on Walter's side. This is not a plot conflict. Move on.
My high? I'm drinking it.
Ah, yes. The professor who relies on daytime alcohol to get through a week is shaming her husband for looking at safe-for-work JPEGs. They argue, blah, blah, blah. Now time for class.
Eggs.
Toaster waffle.
Phone's bad! Phone's evil! So this movie's a third of the way over, and the plot point of Larry CROWNE is broke and needs to get a job has been abandoned. Simply enrolling in a couple community college courses means he's all set. So now we're just watching Tom Hanks go to community college.
Your device, please. They call them smartphones, but only dummies use them in my class. Now,
He walks with his best teenage friend over to the moped gang, and we're introduced to Talia's boyfriend, who is named Del Gordo, and that's Spanish for of fat? Clever? They snap intimidatingly at him.
Or you can't join the gang.
And then he rides off with them. This is heinously stupid. Look at this. There are like 20 of them. Who the fuck are these people, and where are they about to sit? Then they go to Cedric's year-round yard sale, and Del Gordo beats up a toll train.
Hey, kid.
Then one of the girls gives him a haircut that seems to add more hair to his head, and that turns Talia on in front of Fat.
You are way cooler than you appear.
Oh, I don't know if I can keep watching this. I don't know if I can keep doing it. That makes of Fat mad, and he reminds Larry,
but I love her the most days.
The next day, Larry tears out of his driveway with an upbeat attitude because he kissed a teenager. He just happens to run into Mercedes Tano, who drives an old Ford Taurus, which is perfect because that is the Larry CROWNE of cars. Time for class. Then he and Talia shop for some clothes at a storage facility, and Of Fat gets mad at Larry because he exposed his boomer stomach in front of Talia.
Hey, Lance.
And also, did I mention they all call Tom Hanks Lance because they think it's cooler than Larry? I hate this! Guess what happens next? Just take a guess.
Well, if you need a job, they'll hold you over there, Kimasabi. Just ask.
He accidentally gets hired as a line cook. He accidentally gets a job. He doesn't have that degree that the movie tried to convince me is mandatory for any job anywhere. He doesn't even have experience as a cook. He could have gotten a job this whole fucking time. Okay, sweet. Problem solved. Plot solved.
Spectacular.
The movie's halfway over. What could happen next?
Sharing sweets with a little dolly. I bet that's why he went to college.
Oh, awesome. Mercedes Taino thinks Larry is a pedophile.
Uh-oh, isn't that
Adorable. To her horror, he then talks about hanging out with Talia next class.
Then she hops on my bed, and it's too hard. Who lives here? The Flintstones?
Can anyone remember anything from that?
Feng Shui actually works. I read about it in my Asian studies class.
What kind of line read was that? All right, now, Mercedes and Bryan Cranston are kind of drunk from their date, and they bicker in the car, which makes Mercedes say,
Let me out of this fucking car!
And then she sits at a bus stop, only for, of course, all the moped riders to show up. Do none of these people have any lives? Larry, of course, offers to bring her home, and then we see...
Oh, this looks like a DUI. This guy's in trouble.
I know my rights!
And she makes fun of him.
Hey, careful with that man's cheesecake!
You didn't say a word about his drunk driving. You got in the car with him and let him drive. But now you're completely over him.
Just if you wanted to kiss me, it would really be your lucky night, because I'm half in the bag and my husband won't be home for, 3 to 5 years.
Okay, all right, first of all, you think he's a pedophile. Second of all, you're abandoning your husband because he looked at this picture and drunk drove with your approval. Third of all, how many priors does your husband have? You don't go to jail for getting pulled over driving drunk. Did he have a warrant? What would put him in jail for 5 years? Porn? Okay, so Larry doesn't make love to Julia Roberts, but he does make out with her, and he gets so excited that he headbangs in front of her door. The next morning, I'm proven right anyway, and Bryan Cranston's dropped off by a taxi, and he's still holding his takeout, and he's greeted by a stacked mountain of all of his things, including an apparently extension-corded PC displaying a safe-for-work picture. So then we cut to Julia Roberts hungover, teaching her class that she has previously complained is at 8 a.m. Cool, when the fuck did she have time to do all that? Now it's time for the movie to wrap things up really quickly because it wants to slide into base at a crisp 98 minutes. Let's see here, will it be awkward for Larry to still hang out with a teenage girl while he's attempting to court Mercedes? It should be, but it's not, because Talia goes ahead and tells her they're not a thing.
But I think he was born in the 1950s. Lance is forever mute on the subject of you.
And then instantly drops out of college.
I dropped out of college today.
Congratulations, your character has completed her tasks. Get out. How about the fact that Julia Roberts is still married?
I'm divorcing a professor turned writer turned blogger with the libido of a 13-year-old.
No, she isn't. So that means Bryan Cranston is no longer an issue, because as we all know, divorces are instantaneous, and he got an apartment overnight, I guess. Speaking of which, Larry CROWNE over here solved his extreme poverty problem by simply dumping his giant house he lived in alone and getting an apartment, which is something he could have done at the beginning of this movie. So, now it's time for Miss Taino's class to do their big end-of-semester speeches, which is the entire reason this was even a speech class in the script. There was 15 more minutes of footage about them planning for the speeches. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the speech scene leaves the viewer with something huge. It does. The Feng Shui girl looks exactly like that guy from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And that's pretty much it. The movie ends slightly in the future with Mercedes Taino and Larry CROWNE kissing on a terrace. Good for Larry. Weird that he had to do a semester of college to figure his shit out. Oh, wait, what's that? You're saying that we're in his second semester of community college now? He's a man in his 40s with a job and apartment, and he's still just going to college? Fucking creep. IMDb lists this movie as a comedy drama romance, which is interesting since it's not funny, not romantic, and none of the drama is rooted in any sort of reality. Tom Hanks thinks Getting a degree is mandatory for retail, but having cooking experience isn't necessary to get a job as a line cook. Tom Hanks thinks if he went to community college, a college experience defined by people keeping to themselves and juggling a job on the side, a horde of teenagers would follow him around on his moped day and night. Tom Hanks thinks that looking at vintage bikini pictures and getting a DUI is grounds for an affair without a second thought. Turns out Tom Hanks doesn't really know how to relate to people going through a recession when he's spending that recession creating his own movie about it. In your own words, Tom?
You're forever retarded, Crown.